Hello, 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 and welcome to the Mystic Nerd Squad podcast. OMG, you all, I am so excited. I feel like I am circling back to the beginning of my experience in podcasting, and I have flipped the microphones around. And today I get to talk with one of my dear friends, an amazing mentor, Laura DeFranco. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of fun today. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm excited to be able to say that, your show.
I
This
know.
is so awesome.
I know. And honestly, I was sort of falling asleep last night and I was tracking how you and I were connected. And we talk about the mysteries of the universe and the amazing things that happen, but every step is a meaningful step. So in the fall of 2019, I was on my self development journey, like most of us, and I had fallen into this group of women and did this whole writing challenge in November of 2019. Connected with Laura Mazzata, who's one of my favorite people in the world, and I won the contest in the group for the month of November for writing. And she messaged me and she said, "Listen, I have this group that I joined. You would be perfect. It's called The Right Habit, WRITE." And she's like, "You have to join it." So I did. And I was like, okay. And so here comes this Laura DeFranco doing these live videos, talking to everybody like we're just familiar friends. And one of the first things I heard you say was, "Your fear of not good enough is boring." And I was like, wait, what? I felt so triggered and so seen. And I was like, she just told me my fear of not good enough is boring? What? So that was like my first introduction to you, Laura. And I was like, all right, what else has this woman got to say? What else is she going to dispel for me? And it was so funny, and it's so true that your fear of not good enough is boring.
I
Right?
am so happy that you traced our roots back, first of all. Thank you. Because if you had asked me, I would have been like, I have no idea like how that happened. The right habit, yes. So I'll have to do a little quick thank you to Elizabeth Gilbert, because her blog / Facebook post the year that I started talking like that just said, "Your fear is boring." And I morphed it to "your fear of not good enough," because I talk about purpose-driven kinds of fears. And that little inner critic voice saying, "You're not good enough. It's not perfect enough," And when she wrote her thing and I read that, I had a similar reaction. I
Mm-hmm.
tattooed it on my forearm too.
I love it.
Like there's initials there that stand for "your fear is boring." I wanted a constant reminder, because how that tied into my mission was that, the fear of not good enough is boring. It's not about me anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the person whose life I could change if I was brave enough to share my message.
Mm-hmm.
And, you've heard me say those things too, so I know you get it. But that was big ass burning purpose in me when I woke up to that.
Yeah. Well, and it definitely lit a fire under my butt. It started this whole process of like, I never thought about it that way. And also, huge Liz Gilbert fan. Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear should be like, I feel like that should be in high school. Like they should,
Yeah.
that should become part of the high school, because we all get stuck in this rut at some point in our lives where we're doing the things we feel like we're supposed to be doing because somebody set us on this path and told us this is the way, this is what you're supposed to do. I did so many of the supposed to do's, and I know you have too. You're supposed to do good in school, you're supposed to be a good girl, you're supposed to go to college and have a career and find a guy and get married and have kids and do, all these things. And I thought the like end of that sentence was, you're supposed to do all these things and then you're going to be happy. So it's okay to not be happy now. It's okay because you're going to do all these things and then you get to be happy. And then I was like, I did all the things and I was like, hello? Where is my big pile of happiness? Not here. Not here in the middle
No.
of a codependent relationship and, feeling like an imposter in my life and still stuck in the rut of perfectionism. I know you had that experience too in your life.
I did. This basically the same exact one. The supposed happiness to-do list is long. And waking up to the fact that I wasn't real happy like I should be, the shoulds and the supposed tos, right? Oh my gosh. Actually was one of the best moments of my life. It created a lot of hard decisions that I needed to make. And that part wasn't, so fun. But the transformation, I'm still grateful for that. I woke up to the fact that I did follow everything that everyone else said I should do. I had great moments in checking off those things. I can't say that everything was bad. There was a lot of good things, but you know how you say that book should be in college, like I think high school. I think what needs to be in high school also is teaching intuition 101, like teaching how to connect with the place that you can figure out what brings you joy, not what everyone else tells you should bring you joy. That's the 101 class that should be in high school.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. I feel like it was the opposite for me. I think I spent so much time stuffing down what really lit me up and what really got me excited about life. And I agree with you. There were a lot of really good things. I mean, I'm not regretful of, going to college and becoming an occupational therapist and the work that I've done with children. I mean, I love that, and my coworkers and everything. But I think for me, it was so much more like the daily life and how I felt and how I treated myself versus like the accomplishments. The accomplishments were great. We have these amazing curriculum vitae. We can be like, hey, look at this. Look at all these things I've accomplished. But it was how I felt day to day and how I treated myself day to day that was more concerning for me.
That's interesting because, the achievements and accomplishments were my drug of choice, actually, throughout that whole time. And, gave me the high that I needed to move to the next one. And that gets pretty exhausting after a while. But you're making me realize that the place that I wasn't awake to was my own voice, finding it, using it, expressing this me that was inside. So I was doing the achievement thing, but not really fully expressed through many of those years, probably a couple of decades, unfortunately, but I know you believe this too. Every single thing happened for me on my journey. We have a really similar story, right? So I became a physical therapist and did all kinds of amazing things on that checklist we were talking about. And I would not go back and change anything that I did or accomplished. It helped me get to where I am today. I think what I would have loved to have woken up to faster was getting over my fear of being my full-on self in the world and speaking her out loud and being her with the people around me in all of the situations, work and relationship and everything. I feel, I'm sad for that young woman sometimes that it took her so long. And I feel so good to be here today. Not caring so much anymore what other people think, but also being here to serve other people that need to hear that message. It's kind of an interesting two things at once.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that too. And I think when I did let myself out and free and wild and being in my full self, it was usually with that vulnerability hangover the next day, like, oh my God, what are people going to think of me? I've totally let myself out and let myself be unabashedly myself. And now now I feel like I need to recoil and kind of pull back in, because it's like that how many ways are you too much for other people?
Oh my goodness, right. And I feel it in my body, right? So the foundation for me of this intuition became body awareness. And even as you're talking about that scenario and that feeling, for me, it's like in the center of my chest, and it gets tight and shrivelly, and my posture changes, and I
Mm-hmm.
want to go, shrivel away. And I've learned, I think warriors choose a healing path, and it takes a warrior because you have to be able to tolerate those feelings and not make them mean anything else than what they are in your body. And that is just a chance to be awake and alive, really, period. Awake and alive, because we all get to feel those things. But that connection then becomes this awesome compass. So I'm going to pull this all the way to like that purpose driven fear idea that we started talking about. That
Mm-hmm.
has a feeling in here too.
Mm-hmm.
So I could feel that horrible feeling of that vulnerability hangover, but I can also shut it down faster now and just be like, feel your feelings. And is this doing you any good, like to stay stuck in this, for one more second? No, because I could go be sharing or creating for somebody who might need some help or support or assistance or whatever. I could be shifting into gratitude right now.
Yeah.
And you know what the truth is? Nobody is thinking anything about you. They're all doing their own life. They all have their other things going on with their own selves. Like, we all think everyone else is thinking about us all the time. Like, no. But it's funny how we do that to ourselves, right?
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. And it's like I have no time to think about anybody else. I'm like very very much perseverating on myself at this point. Yeah, I think that's so very true. And I think in the past few years what's been really exciting for me is that gut instinct and that intuition, and letting that be, like you said, a compass. It feels so much easier and all of the work that I did and the pushing and all of the mental games that I played with myself over the years. Um, it's so much nicer and more comfortable, and it frees me up for so many more things, for so many more people to be available. And like you said, it's the things that we're doing with that purpose-driven fear that are inspiring others that gets me excited. It's not actually my own journey. It's this awakening and allowing for other people to say, well, if Laura DeFranco can dance out there and be her full, unabashed self, why can't I do that? Why can't she do that? Why can't he do that? And for people to see that. And this is what gets me like really like nerding out big time, is what would that look like? This is what I like to imagine and get into. What would it look like for all of us to feel free to be the 100% version of ourselves in the world? What would that look like? What would that feel like? What could we do and accomplish together? So I'm like, every single person who comes across my path, if I've given them just a little inspiration, I feel like I'm doing the thing that I'm meant to do on this planet.
We we can inspire them, and you know what else we need to make sure of is that we continue to be a safe circle and community for those people to come back to and practice what you're talking about. I mean, the reality is, in some of your circles you don't feel safe, and some of the places out in the world it's even dangerous to do what we're talking about. So I think I always come back to how grateful I am for the community I get to play in every day. And I remind myself, come back there,
Mm-hmm.
choose your inner circle,
Mm-hmm.
and choose them repeatedly based on that community's ability to make it safe for you to be your full on, amazing, hippie, sexy, badass, warrior love self, right? Like, I think we wish that was going to happen everywhere, And when it doesn't, or when we're deeply hurt when it doesn't, we have to remember, all right, I get the choice. And this person may not be aligned with me right this moment. They may be teaching me a lesson. Okay. Us healers are constantly in this, process of awareness. But I think sometimes we have such a wide berth there that we need to remember we also need to protect ourselves with people who are walking the walk with us and can hold that safe space for us to be ourselves. Oh, Kelly, you have been playing bigger in the world, as have I. And it's not like if the trolls will come out, it's when.
Mm-hmm.
And, grabbing hands with other people who get that is so important. So I appreciate you being one of those people for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think we have a responsibility, and taking the small steps that we take to be inclusive in our language, in our circles, in our openness of our hearts to seek to more deeply understand. Oop, I'm sorry.
What happened? I didn't see anything.
Oh, okay. It's only on my end.
Oh, good.
It's like I have the home central monitor of all the things coming in and going. I'm glad that didn't disrupt us. But I feel this importance of recognizing what privilege is and being privileged, being very fortunate, and not everyone has that. And I'm so glad that you brought that piece of it up, because I think the small steps that you and I and other people are taking to be more inclusive in our language, in our circles, and pulling people in recognizing, seeking more deeply to understand other people's perspective is part of the process of change, and I think the more that we can do that and recognize that, and that definitely takes some bravery too, because to be the voice in the room that's saying, wait a minute, guys, let's think about this for a minute. Let's think about the way we're talking about other people and how are we being less inclusive is not necessarily the most comfortable conversation. But if we can't do that, then who's going to do it?
Right. Exactly right. That's why I use the word warrior a lot. I mean, trailblazing kindness is not for the faint of heart. Trailblazing courage, inclusivity, all of the things, vulnerability. You were talking before we started about Brene Brown and that work, and just, and the reason it's hard is because it's massively uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because you feel feelings inside of you that feel horrible. And you have to be able to practice the awareness that allows you to tolerate that feeling without reaction immediately, allows you to tolerate the feelings and respond from an aligned place, aligned with love mainly. And this is a practice. And again, just going to repeat myself that how grateful I am to be around people who are practicing talking about it out loud, so that it can, because when it's in here, it's hidden. We have to have that out loud to make it evolve. It has to be out and in great conversation and better communication. And I love the community who is all doing that together. It's powerful.
It's really powerful work. And you realize when you get into other circles where that work hasn't been happening, how disjointed it feels, and it makes me excited, because I see, your communities are growing at a rapid rate. I know you're getting ready to celebrate one of your groups hitting 1,000 members. And I think that is what separates you from a lot of people, Laura, this work that you're doing at an exponential rate with this level of energy that I know a lot of people are envious of. So, what are a couple of your secrets? What are the things that you're doing every day that make it easier for you to show up as your most brave version of yourself?
Oh, what a great question. I do have an alien amount of energy, I admit. And I believe that that came from a time, I would say maybe 6 or 7 years ago, when, just only 6 or 7. Okay. I didn't always have this alien amount of energy that a lot of people see right now and be like, what is she on, but I'm on prioritizing joy is what I'm on. I'm on speaking my voice in moments where it mattered and I could have turned toward something else.
Mm-hmm.
And anger, resentment, guilt, shame, frustration, all, so listen, I spent 30 years in healing, and I understand that feeling everything fully is the first priority. I'm not shoving those things away. I'm allowing myself to feel. And then with awareness, I get the choice. So a while ago, I made that choice. Joy, like allowing every cell in my body to vibrate with joy and love and gratitude. I was going to aim toward that more often. And I wake up every morning in my little miracle morning. I know you have a miracle morning too. So that's something else. I made that decision, and then I created practices and strategies and rituals for myself that would feed that. And my miracle morning is a combo of meditation and journaling, affirmation journaling, sitting in stillness and writing, because writing is my place of meditation. So those are a couple of the things that come to mind.
Yeah. I think what I've heard from a lot of people that have your level of energy and impact, it is this returning to stillness, returning to self. We talked about that compass before. If you're always on the move, you can't reorient to north, right? You can't reorient to where you're going. And I know a lot of people I've worked with, and a lot of people who, like us, are busy mom, entrepreneur doing 15,000 things and able to do it. But if we don't take that time to return to self, it's very hard to move forward. And I agree with you. I think for me too, the return to joy and the prioritization of joy is a huge factor. And I think people can get confused with that choice of joy, that it means you're always happy. And I think what's really important is you said, feel your feelings. And I used to think my feelings, and I never realized I was thinking my feelings.
Interesting.
Until I stopped thinking my feelings and feeling them and allowing them and giving them a little bit of space, and then being like, okay, I felt it, I'm in it, and now what do I want? Where do I go? What do I choose? Like you said, that choice. I think that is really brilliant advice right there.
You're making me smile because, thinking your feelings, yes. And then adding baggage to this physical sensation, right, is overthinking your sensations, the things that we're all feeling. I mean, spirit of the heart. This is a really good example of this week. I had a hard one. I had a hard day, and I gave myself a good, I would say 24 hours, maybe a little longer. I didn't try to distract myself. I just sat my ass in a chair and stared out the window for a while and got into a meditative state where I was clearing my mind a little bit, and then literally just allowing myself to breathe and open the space up around my heart center, my chest. It's just one of those places that I feel the thinking stuff would be added on to that, in terms of like, what does that mean? Does it mean I'm sad? Does it mean this? Does it mean that this person made me sad? Oh my gosh. So I woke up the next morning and sat with my pen and my notebook. And I call it poem journaling. You know, sometimes poems come out. And I wonder if you'd like to hear this one.
Absolutely, we would. Please.
Okay. You may have read this because I posted it yesterday, but this is called the Alone Place, and I'm going to be looking down to read it. So I touched the alone place without realizing where I was. Let's go and play in the deep end. I heard the little me laugh. So when I dove, I felt excited until there was no bottom. Then the darkness came and there was no sight. The panic came. My heart felt smaller, squeezed dry. And despite my desperate attempts, there was nothing to push off from. My legs went weak. I felt my weight pulling me deeper and tried not to choke on the old wound regurgitating itself. What is this? A feeble spark of awareness. The monster yanked me from below and I started to disappear, to want to disappear. I suddenly felt unsure of my skills, unsure about everything I thought I knew. I floated, drowning. The disorientation felt good. Escape. Soft silence, not shouting temporary solutions, allowing me to really hear. You know what to do. I stopped flailing. I spread my limbs wide, tilted my head back and closed my eyes, felt the pull of the rise almost immediately, a rope from the sky to the center of my chest, bringing me closer and closer to the surface. Relief in a single breath. I pulled myself out up onto the edge, sat and gazed for a moment at where I'd been, only able to see one clear thing, a reflection of myself. I'm here. You'll be okay. You learned everything you need to know to play in the deep end, she said. Now go rest. We're getting you ready for bigger things. So that's part of what happens when I allow myself to be, just sit, feel the feelings, and then poems are the way that something bigger than me moves through me, which is fun.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the point in the poem where you talk about spreading your limbs wide and putting your head back. And the word that comes to mind is surrender. Surrender, trust, let go, and everything comes back to where you wanted it to be. I think it's such a beautiful piece that you've written, and I think anyone who has ridden that emotional wave of, we all feel that. Even Laura Franco feels that, prioritizing her joy. She feels that moment of like, what if I never get out of this dark space? And you disorient, you lose yourself, and you feel like I might never come out of this. And it's scary. And the way to come out of it is to let it be and let go. And I think that's one you should keep bringing up for people, because I really do think it shows how a brave soul does it, how a warrior soul does it. They don't fight. They stop the fight and trust and believe that it's going to be okay. And that higher power steps in. And there you are. You're looking back at yourself like, that was me. There I was. I did it. I did it again, and I'll do it again.
Yes. Giving yourself permission to feel is the way that you heal through anything. And I think everybody has ups and downs. Everybody has bad days, worse days, impossible days, like completely not sure if I'm going to make it through this days. And it's our ability to surrender, like you said, feel and surrender. And I don't let myself get stuck there for too long. though. So I want to allow it to be fully, but I also want to recognize when it's ruminating
Mm.
and when
Mm-hmm.
it's habitual, when it's triggery and old and boring. And I choose, then I'm like, okay, listen, you know, honor the process here, and what are you going to do about this? You know, do you need another day to feel this stuff? Yeah, okay, fine. Not really? Okay, fine. Then, let's figure that out. But one important thing, of course, is that everyone has a process. And I think it's really interesting and important to say to everyone, find yours. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody sits at the desk and writes poems to process their emotions. Some people do art. Some people take a walk. Some people have to do it this way to move to this place. And I think it's really, really great to listen to everyone's ways. We need all the voices. We need to hear all of the ways so that we can try new things and see what works for us, and then create our own practice of healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think going back to the idea of thinking your feelings, I think for me, when I can get into my body and out of my head and into my heart and my gut and my sacral area where I'm like pulling in who I am and what I'm here for, then it's right. You're right. The fear becomes boring. That's like the least interesting part about the process. It's like, but who are you here to inspire, and what are you here to do, and what kind of a mark and a legacy can you leave on the world? And maybe we don't spend every day thinking about that, but I've noticed for myself, I spend more time in that contemplation than, all right, Kel, where did you get it totally wrong today?
I say to myself, remember you have feet, girl, because I get so up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you got feet, like ground and center yourself, go back down. And you said sacrum, right? Pelvic bowl, feet, like, oh yeah, my feet. Okay, back in my body, because all the good stuff happens embodied.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I can catch myself here again, all here, I'm talking like from here up here.
Yep.
Like I forget that I have a lower part.
Yeah.
Because I'm so wrapped up in my thinking and problem solving, analyzing, overthinking, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, breathe. And I know you get this. You realize you've been holding your breath.
Yes.
And right? Yeah. So being back in the body is real. Actually, that's the whole foundation for everything I've done. Right there is body awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've done a lot of writing with you, in book projects and learning to blog and things like that. And I think I spent so many years feeling that writer's block, right? And then Laura comes along and she's like, okay,
I know what you're going to say.
Okay, people, listen. Writer's block, that's a myth. That's not a thing. You're just way up here overthinking it. You need to get back in your body. You need to sit. You need to take those big pelvic bowl breaths and get into your body. And I love the processes that you have to get to the purpose of your writing. For those writers out there, you're not writing just to hear yourself talk on a page. Right? You're writing because you want to make a difference, because you care about people and you feel your story is going to help someone. And so if you could tell everybody at home, how many projects is this for you at count? How many of those books have been put out into the world?
A lot. I am losing count. We're at 30 plus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
in the past 2 years.
Yes. And that's after my own, right? So I've written 9 of my own books, and then began publishing collaborations and other kinds of books. And those are the ones that are at 30 plus at this point in the last 2 years. I say that out loud, and it's hard not to go into that. Oh my gosh, people must think you're insane, or people must think, right? We do that a lot. Well, I hope you think that that's badass and amazing, because I feel like it. Like,
yeah,
something much bigger than me drove that bus in the last 2 years, and all I did was aligned with it.
Yeah.
And that's how that magic happened. Plus, I'm a little bit anally time management organized type of A person, so it didn't hurt to have those strengths.
No, and I think that's such a great point, that the feminine and the masculine aspects of our personality and our energy work together, not in opposition or solo from one another. If we really want things to happen, we can't just be in our feminine state and flow all the time, and we can't just be in our masculine. I spent most of my life in my masculine, suppressing my feminine, because I believed and was conditioned to believe that being in that state was not productive, was not helpful. But I've actually learned that when I get into that state, the amount of things I'm able to accomplish with ease, with no time at all. I mean, time goes. I don't know where it goes, but I pull it from places and things just happen and it's done. But you also need the strategy and the project management and the team, and I think that is something I see you doing. That's such a beautiful thing. You're pulling this beautiful team around you to support you and to carry on the mission. And there's so many of us that just are in it. I see us all as like, we're like, all right, hand me the shield and the sword. I'm ready. Let's go.
And I so appreciate you for that. I think that once I allowed myself to dream a bigger vision, to really get around something that I knew wouldn't be just me loving that. It would be lots of other people doing exactly what you just described. Like, yeah, let's do that together. And there's a meaning and purpose behind that, not only for one or two people, but for the entire group of people moving in one. There's like little goosebumps there, because it's big energy. There's big energy when we join hands and move it. A lot of people don't like the word warrior, and they go to war and fighting so much. And I would like to redefine it right now for anyone watching. It's about moving into life and being willing to be vulnerable. That's the warrior. It's aligning with love. Mm-hmm. These are love warriors, right? So while we might have the vision of the shield and the sword, for me, it's more about that big collaborative love energy that is really like pretty unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. And you're exposing your softest parts, right? You have a sword and a shield, but there's so much of you that's exposed, right? Those soft parts and the vulnerability of standing for what you believe in, And so when we're all doing that, it's very hard not to catch it. Be like, wait, I want to do that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a good contagion, isn't it?
Yes.
It's something that grows and expands and, laser beams out in such a wonderful way. I've watched it over and over, and I'm so honored and grateful to all of the people that have just, come in and said, yeah, me too. Like, I want to help with this. Like, let me be involved. Let's do this. I'm just so grateful. It's hard. Yeah. I'm going to say the G word like 1,000 gazillion million times, because my heart is it's bursting with that energy.
Yeah. Well, and when you feel that and really feel the gratitude, it's fuel. That's the fire. That's what keeps you going, because you're like, I like that. I want to feel that again. Give me more of that, please. That ability to feel the gratitude and and feel connected. For me, that's part of it too. It's the community, it's the connection, it's being able to hold hands with these people. The people in this community are just incredible people. They're these human beings with these amazing stories and some very heartbreaking and some heartwarming, but it feels so good to be at that level with people, to know the depths of their soul and see they're surviving, they're thriving, they're moving forward. And to me, that's what attracts me to doing these projects, because you're with these people, we're writing these stories that are from our hearts, from heartbreak, from accomplishment and overcoming obstacles. And then let me tell you how you can get here too. That was the first thing that really struck me back in March 2020, when we were all like, what the heck is going on? And you were like, guys, you came into the group and you said, I had a dream. Okay, I had this dream. And so I reached out to a bunch of people and I was like, let's do this. So can you tell us about that dream that you had in March of 2020?
I will. Yes. I never get tired of saying this story. It's, so, I had two businesses for a while. My physical therapy practice and Brave Healer Productions were running side by side for 5 years. I was making a transition, but really couldn't fully do it. I was too afraid to leave the bread and butter and jump. Right. And so March 20th of 2020, I woke up. I had been dreaming. It's that space just as you're waking up and you're kind of halfway between a dream and waking, and you kind of know you're in that zone. And this was about a week after my physical therapy practice had been shut down by COVID. So I had been in a bit of a panic, not really sure what I was going to be doing, but woke up dreaming the dream of doing the first ever book collaboration. I had been in 4 of these kinds of projects in the past. So it wasn't like I hadn't had the idea in the past. I had been in them and enjoyed being in them, but this was like, no, you're going to do this one. And you're going to invite your healer posse in to write a chapter, right? And so I went into that little Facebook group that you're talking about, and I typed that note. It was a class I was teaching at the time. And I said, who wants to do this? We're going to teach self-healing techniques. Because of COVID, we all lost our healers in person, hands-on. And I wanted to help empower people. Like, there's so many things we can be doing on our own, and we will teach you. It's part of what we all do anyway. If we are real, authentic healers, we know that empowering the clients to do it on their own is really where the magic is, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, yeah, this needs to be the book. So in 48 hours, 24 people said yes. And 5 weeks later, we had a #1 Amazon best-selling book on our hands. And what? That's, if y'all know anything about books in general, it was kind of a small miracle just to have a book out that fast, everybody turning their beautiful words in on time and getting it done. And so that's why I say, since that day, something much bigger than me has been driving this bus. And all I've been really doing is following instructions, the divine orders from the universe, staying aligned with my joy, and moving forward in that fashion. The other funny part about that story is that I really thought that was going to be it until a week after my friend emailed me, Miss Lilia Shoshana Ray. If you're watching, I love you, Lilia, for emailing me that day and saying, hey, Laura, when are you going to do the next one? And it's her fault.
It's her fault
that we have 30 now.
Wonderful.
So
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. And I immediately supported the project, and I was like, you were like, I'm gonna have a launch group, you get to see it before it comes out. I was like, oh well, that's a reader's dream. I want to see it before it comes out. So I was like, all right, sign me up for that. And I remember sitting in my driveway reading, I think it was on Easter, I was sitting outside, it was a nice day, reading the arc, and just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm like, these are these are 25 tools that I can do right here and now. I'm like, everybody needs this. Everybody needs this. And so how many books are we into that original series now? Have we
Oh,
done
five.
five?
Five
Yeah.
volumes of The Ultimate Guide to Self-Healing. Thank you to every author who said yes to that project and came back for other projects. And right, because first of all, not one thing works for everybody. I wanted to have a collection of ideas that people could try. You and I both know that when you've had illness or disease or pain or dysfunction in your mind, body, or soul, you might have tried so many different things and you are running out of hope and you feel like there's nothing else. Well, we're here to tell you there's plenty of other things to try. There's plenty of things. And I wanted to do each book where we had all the voices, first of all, speaking of how it went down for them, their personal story, but then the tools, the strategies, and the practices. There are so many amazing healing practices. And Kelly, I know you're a fan. What else is possible of
Yeah.
that? I know you're a fan of that quote, right?
Yes.
What else is possible? And that
Yeah.
gives people hope, but we wanted to give them toolkits.
Yes.
And so I get excited, you can tell, about this
Yeah.
because I didn't want to do a normal anthology.
No.
I wanted to do something that would put practical, experiential strategies that people didn't have to go anywhere else to do and actually feel a change with right in the moment. Every author that has been in a book, if you're listening to this, thank you so much for being so generous with your stories, the vulnerability, the courage, and also with teaching your master teachings. You all are amazing.
Yeah. And if you're listening or watching and you haven't checked out one of these books, you absolutely need to. And I think the thing that separates them from other projects is one, that piece of the story and a tool or a strategy. And most of the tools and strategies are things that are accessible within your own home. You don't need to spend any money, go anywhere. So you're purchasing a book and you're getting all of these tools and this wisdom. And most authors are additionally providing a resource on their website where you can go as a reader and get more information. And for me as a writer, that's been one of my favorite things, creating this special resource page for people to come to. You know, in one of my books, I talked about my grandfather. And I share pictures of my grandfather from the 60s and the 70s and from, he and his whole family when they were little. And so I found that such a fun healing and therapeutic practice for me. But then for my readers to be able to come and to sort of sit in my life a little bit, it's like it's just an exponential give to the person who's reading the book, and it's like multiply that times 25, and it's like an endless self-development. And I don't know about you, but before self-development was like a cool thing, you used to have to go and like hide in the bookstore in the self-development and hope nobody saw you. And like, is somebody going to judge me as I'm pulling out this book about things metaphysical?
Oh boy, oh boy. My part of my mission is to blow that whole thing out of the water. I speak healer speak, and I feel like part of the reason I was born was to be a bridge, so to a translator. And we have magical, really capital M magical tools and strategies and practices that we've all learned and teach. And sometimes it's just about using the language so someone can really get it and again feel the hope that there might be something different. Thank you for mentioning the resource links and all of this, because I think that if people really understood what they're getting in even one of the books, it would be a mind blower. It's a lot, and it will keep you busy for a while. I think it will be hard to run out of ideas and hope and inspiration, and then again, practical tools that you can play with. There are full, powerful meditations in these books. There are recipes for self-treatment, and again, mind, body, soul, all of it. So thank you, Kelly, for talking about that. And it makes me happy that you have seen the value there, as an author, as a person, and everything. And how cool that you were able to put the photos up, things that you talked about in the chapter, a way for people to kind of have a peek beyond the story, beyond the chapter. And it's those connections that help people feel not alone. So
Absolutely.
they're important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the difference with this being that the authors are open to connecting and communication, and you can certainly, there's so many opportunities to work with any of the authors, but they just want to hear, this helped me. Because for us, when somebody says your tool helped me, that's all we ever need in the world. Just one person that we've helped. And I know that that's something that means a lot to you, and has given you a lot of freedom to sort of move forward because you can help one person.
Yeah. It's something that I come back to a lot. And you know, the Shirley story, my one person, to summarize that idea, you sometimes never know who's watching, who's reading, but it doesn't matter. I want you all to know that they are. And one thing that you share, a moment where you were brave or vulnerable, it's a game changer for somebody else. It is, whether you're having the person reach out or not. I was very lucky to have somebody reach out to me and let me know. And of course, that helped me understand and be more brave with everything I did. It ended up being a fuel, a fire underneath me every single day. I wake up in the morning, and when I'm having any of that boring fear, I'm just like, don't waste my time. You know, like, there's somebody waiting to hear what you have to say in exactly the way only you can say it. And if it's the same message, 20 people sharing the same message, guess what? The way you say it is going to be the way that helps somebody. Everyone needs the voice that they can hear. Yours might be that one. And so I encourage people, everything has been said, done, written before, but not by you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned
that.
That's my other favorite Laura quote. It's been said before, okay, but good. Not by you. And I needed that because I second guessed myself, prior to connecting with you. I'd want to write about something, but I'd be like, well, somebody else wrote about that already. Right. But not in my way. And that authentic voice that we get to express. And the other piece to that gets me even more excited is there's room for all of us. This is not an exclusive club. It's infinite possibilities that everyone can do this. This is not something that is, just for a few. Everyone who has a story and a voice and a tool can teach it. And it doesn't have to be this huge earth-shattering thing. In my first chapter, I taught about creating a sacred bedroom space. Now, it may not be earth-shattering, medical advice. But for me, being able to create a sacred bedroom space meant I got better sleep, meant I had more energy, meant my life just got exponentially better. But it's very simple first steps. And that's what I love because it's accessible.
You're talking about the subtle shifts. And this was a book that my friend Colleen put together, Sacred Spaces. She talked about subtle shifts that can make a huge deal. Oh my gosh, sleep and the different things that you've written about in terms of helping people understand how to set up the energy for amazing sleep. For some people, that's going to be a life-changing moment, when they make those little changes. I think what a cool thing when you realize just a simple little maybe hour in the bedroom, reorganizing, doing a little cleaning, doing a little decluttering could completely change what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sleep. One of
I
my
know.
favorite mentors says naps are a success strategy.
They are. There is scientific proof that it does, because I've geeked out on sleep. So there is
Mm-hmm.
scientific proof that athletes, high level musicians, they use naps to improve performance.
Yep, I'm on board. I like the naps.
Oh my gosh, we've been so complete in covering all of the amazing things that you've been doing in the world. And I think the most exciting part about that is the friendships that have been born out of your bravery. And, to come back to what I was saying, those first small steps that people are taking can be incredible first steps on the path to something amazing. And we don't know what's around the bend, but it's exciting and it's amazing and it's going to be an incredible journey. And so, as you're listening today or you're watching today, think about something that has sort of kicked you into high gear, whether it was the question, what else is possible, which I kept posted on my wall. I took my poster from my office at home and I put it in my cubicle at work.
I love it.
I was like, I could use some mindset shifts here. Or the idea that your fear of not good enough is boring. So if you could push that aside, what would you do? But regardless of whatever first steps you take in the next part of your journey, I highly encourage you to connect with Laura. She is the brave, badass CEO of Brave Healer Productions, which is an empire that is growing at an exponential rate, fueled from somewhere else, not just from Laura DeFranco herself. I will put all the ways that you can connect with Laura, and I really encourage you, if you feel motivated and excited by what she's been talking about, to join her community on Facebook, to follow what she does. And if you're a writer and you've been sitting at home, twiddling your thumbs, feeling that purpose-driven fear, and you want to write in projects, I encourage you to go to her website, linked up in the show notes, where you can find the projects that are coming up. As an author, 4 times Amazon bestseller, and working on my 5th at the moment, I can say that the experience is so worth every invested ounce of yourself. And on the other end of it, you're going to be a different person and feel amazing.
Thank you so much for all of that.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I'm
Kelly.
I'm so grateful for your friendship, your mentorship, your coaching. You, as you say about yourself, you always over deliver, Laura. And today is no different. You've given so much of yourself, and I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being along from the beginning and for the support and the love, and the poetry and the songs and the just, warrior spirit. We call it indomitable spirit in the martial arts. And I've been honored to run with somebody with that kind of spirit. Thank you so much for having me here today and for all of the kind words.
Absolutely. And listen, we're just getting started. So this is only the beginning. So thank
Yes,
you so
ma'am.
much. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for listening, for all the love we're getting from Facebook this morning, watching us live. I thank all of you as part of this community, and thank you for staying curious with us. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.